All right. Wednesday, March 22nd. Talking Nets. The Never Know Nets lose 4 in a row, and maybe you could have predicted that, but probably couldn't have predicted how we've lost these games. This is like State of the Union right now. And we're just coming together, obviously, because we need to pod this week and we need to talk about what we're seeing and what's going on. It's not a traditional episode. This will be quick. Go ahead and hit the music, Alex.
We're doing that Brooklyn Nets talk right here on Talking Nets. Brooklyn, we go hard. Go hard. Talking Nets. Hosted by Keith McPherson, Robin Lundberg, and Hudson Flynn.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 202, as we proceed to give you what you need. A podcast for Nets fans, by Nets fans, talking about your Brooklyn Nets. Now, I understand it's not fun to lose. I understand it's super frustrating when you're looking at the standings. I understand that these guys have been together now for a few weeks, and they've given us some good moments. They've given us some really high of highs and some low of lows. But that's why I call them the Never Know Nets. You never know with this group. You didn't know with the last group. But all in all, this team is the 6th seed in the East. They could be a playoff team, might end up a play-in team. And I know I've been someone that said stop looking into the offseason and next season and focus on this season. But I understand why people are already over this season and looking for next season where you can add some pieces and this team can be a real contender. We'll go around the horn. Keith McPherson, Robin Lundberg, Hudson Flynn joining you on this Wednesday. This will probably be the only time we pod this week. The Nets have lost 4 in a row. They lost yesterday to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Some familiar faces coming back to the Barclays Center. They lost to the Nuggets on Sunday. A couple Denver Nug Nets, former Nets, coming back to the Barclays Center. They lost to the Kings last Thursday, and they lost to the Thunder last Tuesday. And I think we recorded after the Thunder loss. So we've got 3 losses out of this 4-game losing streak to talk about, but I don't want to break down individual losses. I'd rather just kind of get everybody's thoughts and feelings on what they've seen the last 3 games, what they think needs to change moving forward, and where we feel this team is headed as we have like 10 games left or something like that. What's up, Robin?
Well, first of all, I'm wearing a jersey that's a little too tight because it's old. And, I need to drop like 5 pounds, for spring coming up. But can you guess the jersey?
That's the Hove jersey. I was about to say,
Yeah.
Didn't you say you had the Hove jersey and you were looking for it?
I got it dry cleaned. It had all these stains on it. And I was worried because I guess they did 1 of 100 for each night. This says 1 of 100 on it. But I took it to the dry cleaner and they got the stains out. So I'm rocking that. And I got the hat, which I like.
Yeah, that's fire.
So,
I don't have any Nets gear on today. Now you're flexing on me.
I'm not in a dumpster. Like we've done this cycle. I don't know how many times where people are like, go, yay, or this is the worst. Fire Joe Tsai, fire the owner, and what have you. And it sucks to lose. You're right. It sucks to lose. But I think you can both simultaneously still enjoy the rest of the season and look towards the offseason and what this team could be. I mean, those 2 things can exist simultaneously. The games that the Nets have lost, they were the underdog in every single one. I mean, you have to go back to the Thunder game. That's the game that probably hurts the most in this just because they had a lead in that game and they wound up losing it. But Oklahoma City, I think, is the 7th seed in the West right now. Not a scrub team. They're playing pretty well. And then you looked at the schedule and you knew this was going to be the rough patch in the schedule. Unfortunately, the Nets have not played very well during the stretch. I think there's one main culprit to that, the 3-point shooting, more than anything else. I mean, this is a team that really is devoid of guys who can just go get a bucket, and they are dependent on 3-point shooting. And the 3-point shooters are not hitting. So you're going to be in trouble when that's the case. Same thing goes, Mikal Bridges' shooting has gone down a little bit the last 2 games. He was 0 of 8 from 3 last night. They're not going to survive many games where that's the case. I mean, I think there are little tweaks and changes they could try. I don't know if Dorian Finney-Smith has earned the minutes that he's necessarily getting game in and game out. Maybe you try Royce O'Neal, who's been better in that role. I would try Edmund Sumner a little bit more, maybe in lieu of Seth Curry. for a little defensive presence. Somebody who can actually get to the rim a little bit, tries to get to the rim a little bit. But I think we'll see over this next 2-game stretch, because they got the Cavs again. And Cleveland will have, I'm guessing they're staying in New York over that time. So they come in, probably have to hang out in New York for a couple days. Maybe you can catch Cleveland. And then you got the game against the Heat. These Heat New York games are going to be massive. The Heat play the Knicks tonight. The Heat play the Knicks again, I believe, later this week. And the Heat play the Nets. So that will probably determine 5, 6, and 7, really, if you think about it, 5, 6, and 7. But, it's not the end of the world. One, because this team is not built to win it all this year, and we will look toward the offseason. But two, the Nets have the second easiest schedule in the NBA the rest of the year. So I think, I could almost look into a crystal ball and fast forward to a future episode where instead of all the commenters going, "Oh, this is the worst, my eyes are bleeding," they're going, "Oh, who knew the Nets could do this?" after they, wind up beating the Rockets and whomever.
Yeah, and you can also look back, Robin, to 2 episodes ago when the Nets pulled out of their road trip and were in an absolutely amazing spot. Everybody was flying high. Joe Tsai is the best owner. All we need is Trae Young and we'll be perfect. It's the reality of being a sports fan, not even just an NBA fan, but a sports fan today, where everything, especially with how hyper filled the world is with content. The reality is that everyone is going to be able to share their takes and is going to be bombarded with different emotional takes from different sources that are reactionary not only to the good times, but also to the bad times. And when you are a team like the Nets, which is not a team, not anymore, that is going to be favored in every game. The past 4 years, if we had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the floor at the same time, unless we're playing another top team in the NBA, and that's a top team, we were probably favored by a couple of points, 5 or 6 points. And the reality of this team now is that those spreads are going to be closer. We're either going to be 1 or 2 point dogs or 1 or 2 point favorites. And when you are those things, and if you are assuming that those odds are realistically put together, you are looking at coin flip odds of winning every game. And anyone who's ever taken a basic probability class knows that flipping a coin 8 times in a row theoretically is going to lead to 4-4 going each way, but could lead to stretches of all in one direction, all losses and all wins. And the reality of this Nets team is, if they're not hitting their 3-point shots, which right now they are not, there has been some serious 3-point regression by a lot of the players that have come here from the trade. Spencer Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, all of those guys have seen 3-point regressions. We are not going to be able to win all of those coin flip games because, as March Madness shows us every year, the reason that any NBA team or any basketball team in the world is able to win any game is because of 3-point shooting. And if we're not hitting those shots, we're certainly not going to be able to fight against the best teams in the league. And we may lose those games against teams that are closer to our level. But at the end of the day, when we are looking forward, whether that is to the offseason or to now, the next step for this Nets team is to continue seeing what we have on this roster. And what we have on this roster is going to show us what they can do both now in the playoffs and into the future over the course of these next couple of games, because there is going to be a gut check. There is going to be a reality check after a 4-game skid, and fighting back against teams, 1, that we're better than, and 2, that we are close to in the standings is going to be absolutely important. But there is certainly no reason to look at this stretch and say, oh, flunk out, tank out. There's no reason to play the rest of the season. At the end of the day, that's just echo chamber reactionary nonsense.
Well, I think if you look at the schedule too, it's likely the Nets will be favored in like 7 games in a row after the next 2 games. So that's what I was saying before. Keith, I think you said we had the schedule.
I just said to Alex, throw it up. Okay, so I mean, this is important. And I know you guys want to look ahead to the offseason. I know you guys want to tank. Like, I'm just looking at the comments on YouTube right now. Some people are saying, hey, missed the playoffs. Some people are already, talking about who to draft or, who to add to this team. Hudson made the joke about Trae Young. But listen, this is the last stretch here. This is the last 10 games. They have the Cavs again tomorrow. And I would hope that the Cavs have a wonderful time in New York City today and tonight. It's a little warmer out. Guys like Karis LeVert, Jared Allen going back to their old stomping grounds. Donovan Mitchell is from the area. I hope he has a blast. And maybe the Nets can steal one from the Cavs tomorrow. Then Saturday, they go down to Miami, party in the city where the heat is on. World Baseball Classic is over, but the Nets are coming to town. And the Heat are battling. They're only a half game behind us. That's a big matchup right there. That's for respect. That's for the standings. And the Nets own the season series against them. From Miami to Orlando, staying in Florida, the Nets absolutely can and should beat the Magic. Then they'll come home to host the Rockets. They absolutely can and should beat the Houston Rockets. Then you got the Atlanta Hawks, who are jockeying for a position, but most likely going to be a play-in team. Should be able to beat them. Who knows? But this stretch of home games coming up, you got 4 in a row where it's Rockets, Hawks, the Jazz. They should be able to beat. Timberwolves, I think they can beat too. They went and beat them in Minnesota. It took overtime. I bet Ant-Man is ready to go, Anthony Edwards, by April 4th. But who knows? And then the Pistons, the Magic, and with the 76ers, that could be the team we face in the first round. That's the last game on April 9th. There are some winnable games, and I think that the Nets can control their own destiny some. Robin alluded to the fact that they were not favored. If you're a gambling man and you look at the spreads and the odds, honestly, I was betting against them. The only mistakes that I made in betting against the Nets was expecting like Mikal Bridges to be an automatic 25, 30 points to hit threes. And yeah, they're struggling to knock down threes. Before they were struggling to rebound. When you watch that Kings game with Sabonis and then you watch the Nuggets game with Jokic, like they're not going to be able to rebound with these guys. We haven't won a game since we let go of Nerlens Noel. And they brought in Moses Brown, and there's a clear weakness there. Shout out to Day'Ron Sharpe last night getting to play 20 minutes and put up 20 points. I think I'd rather see that young man get the opportunity the rest of the way because like Hudson was saying, this is a tryout. This is these guys putting film together to be on this team next year, to stay here. And I think as fans, we got to kind of taper our expectations. We got to kind of just like get back to reality. This team was blown up. And when it was KD and Kyrie and all the nonsense with them being out of the lineup for injury or Kyrie being out from suspension or vaccine mandates, everybody wanted to talk about chemistry and will they have enough time to gel? And they never did. This team is trying to find their chemistry, trying to gel, trying to figure out who is who and what is what in this last stretch. And I saw someone in the chat say, like, no way they can beat Boston or Philly or whoever in a series. No shit, Milwaukee. We're not expecting them to go and win a series. We're not expecting them to get out of the first round. I have set the bar where I've been saying this on WFAN. I've been saying this on Talking Nets. The bar for me that I'd like to see these guys get to, it's not set that high. It's set from last year's team with KD and Kyrie. I just want to see these guys hold that 6th seed. Get that 6th seed. Hold that 6th seed and be a playoff team and not have to enter the play-in tournament. Win one game. If you get the gentleman's sweep by Philly, I'm cool with it. That's what we did in 2018, 2019. It's okay, Nets world. Hold on. Danny right on cue. You got it.
Danny V writes, guys, I know Cam doesn't play that much defense, but we're going through stretches of no offense. Why is he not in? Look, I was beating that drum before, but Cam's kind of had some opportunities and hasn't come through. So at this point, I'm on the Edmund Sumner train for that role more than anybody else. I feel like he's the one that's brought the most consistent energy, the most consistent defense, and the straight line driving. Because if you look at some of the glaring flaws on this Nets team, obviously, like I said, they don't have too many guys that can go get a bucket, and that's not Sumner. He's not a good enough finisher around the rack, but they really don't have too many straight line drivers just in general. Spencer Dinwiddie's probably the only other guy. So Sumner could fill that role. They also struggle against point of attack players, and Sumner can get in there. So I'd actually kind of want to see him. Look, I was hopeful for Cam, but he just hasn't played that well. And when we talk about the schedule and everything, don't get me wrong. The Nets can lose to any of those teams, right? The Magic are playing well. They're not good enough to just chalk up a win, but they could also go on a nice run where they get things clicking and the three-point shooting flips in the other direction. Because all these guys are shooting below their percentages and they're getting good shots. You know, they had really good shots in some of these games that they just didn't hit. So you need some of them to hit the shots. At the same time, of course, we all, you see Damian Lillard's comments the other day and you go, because somebody like that, a dynamic guard, is exactly what this team needs and this franchise needs, but they have the pieces to swing something in the summer. The draft is in play for the first time in a long time. And as much as I get, where they were, we've had this conversation before. The analogy I use is they were a plane, right? That was at a higher altitude than this current plane, but it was one that was certainly going down. Whether it was going to go down when it went down at the trade deadline, or this spring, or this summer, or last summer, that plane was going down. This plane is at a lower altitude than the previous plane, but it is on the way up. We'll see how fast it can be on the way up, but you've now, you've already gotten through the crash aspect of the plane. So they're in a position to retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, on the fly. I think they have 3 first-round picks this year. They can trade up to 5 first-round picks this summer. Bridges has been what he's been. You got to make the decision on Cam Johnson, who is up as a restricted free agent. But it still is a team that just got thrown together. It still is a team that doesn't know its exact identity. And it's a team that's simply just not as good as the teams they've been playing. So I don't know how much, that's about it being a disaster and everything falling apart as, the ebbs and flows of the schedule.
We've also seen an offense, frankly, and I know we're losing and we're having cold stretches, all that stuff. We're seeing an offensive scheme and an offensive concept from Jacques Vaughn that is working. The Nets are losing, if you want to put it down to one thing, because of rebounding, which at the end of the day, we're not as big as the teams that we've been playing. We're frankly not as big as most of the teams in the NBA, so we can't technically really control that. But we're losing because we're missing open three-pointers, wide open three-pointers, frankly. And while that is terrible, it's not very fun to watch. You expect someone who is theoretically close to a 50% three-point shooter to hit close to half of his threes, right? But we're getting open threes, and that means that the offense is working. And so while the Nets do have a lot of needs, this kind of, to me, looks like something that we can project out to kind of regress to the mean, which for all of these players on the Nets, their mean is hitting 41, 42% of the threes, particularly of the players that have not been hitting them, right? So at the end of the day, there is no reason why any of these games couldn't have gone in the other direction. And if we have a team that is playing up to the potential, not only of the players we have on the roster, but of the offense that Jacques Vaughn is running and has created, we're going to see improvements, because hitting wide open 3-point shots is something that we should be doing better than we have been, and will do better than we have been. And we have seen that already with this team over stretches. We're just in a stretch where those shots don't happen to be falling, which at the end of the day isn't a player issue. It's not a coaching issue. It's not anything. We saw these kinds of stretches from Kyrie Irving, from Kevin Durant. It just kind of happens. So at this point, I think we just have to tough through it. And that's not very fun. Nobody wants to hear that, but I think that's just where we're at.
And I forgot to mention the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving stuff.
Wait. We're not allowed to talk about those guys anymore. That's all these guys talk about.
That's such a strange arc of things we've seen.
What are they
on
doing
Twitter
right now that makes it so? That's the other thing. It'd be one thing if the Mavs were on fire and the Suns were on fire, and KD could still get healthy. The Suns could still win the championship. I'm not saying that can't happen. That can absolutely happen. But KD has played like 3 games for the Suns and still isn't back on the floor. The Suns have lost. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games, and they're falling in the standings a bit. Meanwhile, the Mavericks are 4-6 in their last 10 games, have not played good basketball since Kyrie has been there. They're in the play-in tournament. So it would be one thing if those guys were thriving and the Nets were sucking. But it really, at this point, is about the Nets kind of being like, all right, hopefully they play well and their future could be better. And at the same time, we haven't seen much from these other guys. So that's the part of it I don't understand when fans get so upset. Kyrie's hurt again now, too. Both of those guys aren't exactly thriving in their new situations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all things considered. I've said this before. I'm cool with the way this worked out. I'm cool with the way that this ended. There was a news article about former Nets breaking their silence, like Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, Denver Nuggets that came here. I think a lot of people knew where this was heading, and the Nets actually escaped this thing, all things considered, with some talented players and some picks. And back to this Nets team of talented players, this is a team that we considered a team with 3-and-D players, right? Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, Mikal Bridges. The defense is there, but the rebounding's not there. And the threes damn sure weren't there last night. They were 9 of 33. They shot 27%. You're not going to win that way. Good first quarter, but then they got out of the way. Donovan Mitchell had his way, and the Cavs are a good team, right? They are the fourth place team in the East. They've had this whole season to gel and to play together and develop their chemistry. They're going to be a tough team in the playoffs. I honestly think they're going to match up with the Knicks. I'm looking forward to seeing that series. Especially with the whole Donovan Mitchell.
Look at the last three teams
Knicks
we've
thing.
played, right? Look at the last three teams we've played. Cavs are a good team. Nuggets are near the top of the West. Kings are phenomenal out of the blue. Like it's not it's not like
and not for nothing, not to cut you off, Hudson. Like even last night's game, they lost by a couple points. They lost by 6 points. They lost by 6 points to the Nuggets. They lost by 5 points to the Kings. So these are playoff teams, like the number 1 seed in the West, number 2 seed in the West, the number 4 seed in the East. This makeshift team, the Kings are 3 now in the West, but like this makeshift team led by Spencer Dinwiddie at point guard. Like I didn't have that on my bingo card that Spencer Dinwiddie would come back and be the point guard. And Spencer frustrates the hell out of me. But like all things considered, like Spencer is doing the best that he can in this role that he's been given here with the Brooklyn Nets, trying to facilitate. I know every episode we talk about him crying about the refs. I wish he would tone that down a little bit. But all in all, this is makeshift. They are making lemonade out of lemons. Ben Simmons, who you guys are talking about in the chat, I keep saying forget Ben Simmons because since last year when the Nets were swept, even before that, there's just been this thought of Ben Simmons helping this team. And you didn't see him last year. You got to see him a little bit this year. And what did you see that makes you believe he's going to come back and change anything? They are gelling and developing without this guy. He's not going to come back and run point guard.
He left his agent, but he left his agent, Keith.
Yeah, he sold his house in LA. He put his house up for sale. He left his agent. He left Clutch Sports and Rich Paul, who finessed and were able to get Sean Marks on the phone with Daryl Morey. And Sean Marks was the only one willing to actually take on Ben Simmons, whatever. I don't expect him to come back and help this team, even if we see him in practice with shorts and sneakers on. Yeah, he gets paid $35 million. He can't just sit at home on the couch when the team is meeting for practice. He has to at least show up. And if it's his back, whatever, I don't have time for that. There's 10 games left in this season. The team is what it is right now. And as Nets fans, we just have to literally hope for the best, which is, I don't know, beating the Nuggets in Denver, beating Minnesota in overtime. Without those games, we would be below right now. We'd be in the play-in right now. They are holding serve. They are fighting for that 6th seed, and that's where we got to hope that they are. Maybe they drop to 7, whatever. But, like, I'm cool with it. It sucks to lose. 4-game losing streak in any sport. Being a fan of anything. It sucked to watch Team USA lose in the World Baseball Classic last night. But that's part of it. You dust yourself off and you fight the next one and try and get the next win. And that's all we can do as fans is hope that they're able to come together and figure it out. Last thing I'll say, with Cam Thomas, I heard Jacques Vaughn last night say that Cam Thomas lost his minutes to Yuta Watanabe. Shout out to Yuta Watanabe, Japanese, big fan of Shohei Ohtani. I know he had a great night last night after the game. Not so great getting dunked on by Donovan Mitchell and not being able to do much to help the Nets. But like Jacques Vaughn spoke to it. He said he like everything we've been saying about Cam. He's young. He's in his 2nd year. He's 21. He's inconsistent. Yeah, he's a bucket. But in those historic games where he went off for 40 in 3 games, did we win all of those games? No, they're trying to figure out ways to win. It's not all about Cam Thomas. Even if you think that he's the next budding star on the team, there are veterans on this team. There's a coach of this team, and they're figuring out what's best for this team as they're trying to be the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference and get into the playoffs with some kind of identity.
The Ben Simmons thing is frustrating just because, when you're looking at the actual mistakes that the organization has made, both James Harden trades are the ones that really come back to bite you. The initial James Harden trade, and of course that was all in for a championship, so you get it. But that's still coming home to roost. Like the idea of the Nets tanking is not a conceivable thing because of the first James Harden trade. Then the second James Harden trade brings back Ben Simmons, who's eating up whatever percentage of the cap. And I think what sometimes frustrates people with Ben Simmons beyond simply him being Ben Simmons and what's going on, is that the theoretical version of Ben Simmons is perfect for this roster, right? Like, this is a team that needs size. It's a team that needs defense at the point of attack and defense inside. It's a team that needs distribution. Somebody can put their head down with a head of steam and set others up. Those are all things a past version of Ben Simmons used to do. But that person just doesn't seem to exist anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Simmons has already played his last game for the Brooklyn Nets. But, so at this point, the only thing you can hope for in the positive thing with Ben Simmons is to be surprised. There should be no expectations. There should be nothing beyond that. But when you have one guy who is eating up that much of the cap, and you look at the James Harden trades in aggregate, and Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert are both on the Cavs, and those draft picks are still owed to the Rockets or the swaps, and the only person who is involved with the Nets in that trade is Seth Curry, who's not really part of the future either, and just not very good in general. Those are the ones that feel like real L's, not actually the Kyrie and KD trades.
Yeah, and there are reasonably things to look at with Joe Tsai and Sean Marks that are L's, that are bad moves, bad decisions. Robin just laid them out perfectly. But it's interesting when you contrast that with the fake L's, the fake bad moves that everyone seems to talk about. The idea that there's some accounts on Twitter have insider knowledge about how stars are never going to want to come to the Nets because of what Joe Tsai did. Just you'll see how we're right in the future. It baffles me. It baffles me because not only, first off, does nobody know whether or not that's true. There's 1,000,001 reason a player will or will not come to any particular team. But at the end of the day, you're focusing on the things that don't matter. There was no future with that old team that we had, and now we have a future. We may not have exactly the perfect future. We may still, have to give those picks up, and we might still have those swaps, so we can't do a full tank. But at the end of the day, we sold a lottery ticket for a championship, for even a third round appearance for a team that has a future. So whether you're looking at the Nets as they exist now, the Nets as they exist in the offseason, or the Nets as they will exist next season, you're looking at a team that can have that forward-thinking optimism only because of the moves that we decided to make. So that's kind of my end cap on the whole Joe Tsai, Sean Marks thing, because it keeps getting brought up, and it's just beyond me why.
Yeah, I don't know. And I even see Universal in the chat. JV is a mid coach. Bro, he is making he's making dinner every night for Nets fans with scraps and a couple good ingredients, but ultimately like trying to make a better dinner than like the Denver Nuggets can make with Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, better than the Kings can make with Sabonis and Fox. And like, I think we just gotta be realistic of where we are at as fans and this organization, man. It's okay. I understand people are having trouble with it, right? But this is like, it just goes back to all of the years as a Nets fan, man. I'll take where we're at right now with these Nets than a lot of those years prior to the KD Kyrie era. And all things considered, after your boy 11 hit the detonate button, for us to even be where we are right now, people thought that the Nets were going to free fall. They didn't expect the Nets to win some of these games. And they're going to surprise teams. They're going to compete and win some games. And I do think that they can hold that 6 seed and win a game in the playoffs. Maybe make it a 7-game series, make it tough on, let's say, the Sixers, who I think we're most likely destined to meet.
Well, I found it interesting what Jacques Vaughn was saying in the postgame. You had mentioned Watanabe playing for Thomas, but he was talking about finding the right combinations and the right rotations for what they're. So he's looking at the rest of the season and maximizing what he has, and also I think maximizing what he has in a playoff series. So I found those words kind of encouraging just from his outlook. And again, to go back to the theme of what I've been saying on this show, we've put the schedule up on the I think there's 10 games left. Let's just say the Nets don't go 7-3 in those 10 games. I think that's a realistic expectation for what the remaining schedule is, if I have the number right. Something in that ilk, in that realm. And then all of a sudden, people will be singing the, opposite tune. I feel like this entire season has been like high, low, high, low, high,
Always
low.
a roller coaster with the
Yeah.
Nets.
So let's, I'm trying to learn my lesson on things like that, especially now that the expectations have been lowered. So I'm not gonna view the lows with the same doom and gloom that I viewed the lows before, when the expectations, at least the immediate expectations, were higher.
Only the theoretical expectations, though, because it's not like we made it past the second round.
Right? I'm like, I don't know what people expect, man. I'm watching these games every night that the Nets are on, and I'm just like looking for little things, who's playing well, who's taking a step back, what they're doing, and they're trying to figure it out. I'm not mad about it. Yeah, it sucks to lose 4 in a row, but like it isn't like they lost 4 in a row to end the season and now they're the 8th seed. Like they still have a chance to fight and hold the 6th seed. If they go 5-5 and they get a little help around them, they still could be the 6th seed. They beat the Heat this weekend, and then the Heat lose some games, whatever. Like hold on.
The Heat and the Nets are the same level team.
Yeah,
the Heat just lost. The Heat
on.
just lost, got destroyed by the Bulls the other night. They barely beat the Jazz. These kind of things. I see the comments. Jacques Vaughn should be on the hot seat, says Greg. Jacques Vaughn is not on the hot seat. He just got a contract extension. Stop talking
He's
about
not
Jacques
going
Vaughn.
anywhere for a long while. While they draft players, while they bring in players, they're expecting him to steer the ship.
He will be the coach of this team next year, through next year. Get used to it. My holy king, Finney Smith, not aggressive at all on offense. That's to me the biggest switch they can make in the immediate future is the amount of minutes.
Are you confident in DFS when he has the ball and he goes to shoot a 3?
No,
I'm not.
So that's what I'm saying. Royce O'Neal, Edmund Sumner, Yuta Watanabe can take some of those minutes. Those are probably the most immediate moves the team can make. Otherwise, you're dealing with what you got. And you hope that Bridges gets hot again. And again, you hope the 3-point shooting comes around, because that's been the biggest thing that's plagued the team. They are a team that's currently built around 3-point shooting, and they can't hit a 3-point shot.
Go ahead, Hudson, and then I'll hit the voicemails.
I don't have much else to say other than you're right. They're getting open 3-pointers too, which makes it worse. Makes it harder to watch.
Joe Harris will hit a couple here and there.
Jacques Vaughn's getting them open 3-pointers.
Seth Curry,
for what it's worth.
But it is what it is. If Mikal Bridges isn't hitting his threes, we're in trouble. If Cam Johnson isn't hitting his threes, that's also a sign that we're in trouble. Spencer Dinwiddie shouldn't be taking as much, but he's going to take an open one. It is what it is, man. I'm all right with where we're at right now.
Hey, Keith, Hudson, Lundberg. It's a long week. I'll make this short. Jacques Vaughn is a problem. He's just a problem. He wants a defensive team, but he's playing Curry and Joe Harris together. He's in an 8-man rotation. He won't play Cam Thomas. Like, I get that we're going to lose games, but I'd rather lose games because of a lack of talent, not because of self-sabotage. I don't know. This got to change. And hot take, by this time next year, he's going to be on the hot seat. Later.
I did not know that was going to be the voicemail after we just said what we said about JV.
The coach is always the easiest scapegoat. What would you like him to do? Cam Thomas has been brutal in the minutes that he's gotten.
And if we're talking about a defensive team and you go to he's not playing Cam Thomas, I don't think we're looking at the same stuff.
Somebody just wrote Moses Brown. Why is he there? Who the hell is Moses Brown? No offense.
He was just with the Knicks.
Who the hell is he? So we're acting like Moses Brown is actually changing things.
A couple people are like, Moses Brown looks like Keith McPherson. I'm like, thanks. What does that mean? I don't know who this guy is. He might not be able to help the team. He's a big body. We'll see.
I mean, we don't even know if you're saying which players on this team are safe and are a part of the core. How many do you count out? Mikal Bridges is one for sure. The next is probably Nick Claxton. Then Cam Johnson, but he's still a restricted free agent. And maybe Spencer's back. But that, this is a roster, a team in flux with a bunch of, Jacques Vaughn also said it last night, a bunch of pros and guys with pride in the locker room. So that's why I don't expect this to tailspin and circle around the drain the rest of the season. I expect them to pick their chins up and respond when they play some teams that are closer to their level. But I just don't understand what Jacques Vaughn is supposed to be doing.
And I've hit on the threes and the fact that we're getting open ones, but look over the last 4 games. We held the Kings to 101 points and the Nuggets to 108. Those are good defensive performances. The defense is there. And look, there are Nets fans that are, as they always will, are putting their faith in Moses Brown, or last week it was Nerlens Noel. I don't know. It could be Reggie Perry next week. Bring him back. Why not? Like, there's the difference that this team is going to be able to make by signing players is non-existent. There's a reason that they are on the buyout market. They aren't simply
let's get Boogie Cousins, get Dwight Howard.
To help. Like, they're not here to be the starting star power forward, the starting center. They're not here to fix our problems. They're here to maybe get a chance to improve around the edges. We have the team that we have, and Jacques Vaughn is getting them open looks. We're losing games because we're not hitting threes and they're open. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, here's the last voicemail. It's 2 minutes long. I don't know if we'll make it through the whole 2 minutes, especially not if you're blaming this 4-game losing streak on Jacques Vaughn as he's going up against playoff teams, top seeds. Like, I'm not seeing that.
Yo, what's up, Talking Nets? How y'all doing, man? I'm okay, I guess. 4-game losing streak. I'm dealing with it. Help me. Listen, Jacques Vaughn needs to put Cam Thomas and Bridges in the game at the same time. Bridges is not this elite defender that he was on the Suns because he has to play both sides of the ball now. 0 for 8 for 3-pointers won't cut it. Same as the additions. The best addition we got was Mikal Bridges. Cindy been shooting bricks. Even CJ Twins shooting bricks. His offense ain't enough for me. I need to see more. I need to see better. And I think we get better by attacking the rim, putting pressure on the rim. There's no reason why Mikal Bridges is taking 8 3-pointers a game when he didn't even hit one. Like, how do you even get permission?
Shooters shoot.
Well, he's a good shooter. I mean, nobody's missing shots on purpose.
He hits 40% of his threes.
Player like Kevin Durant. Got to change that up. And we need to see Cam Thomas and Bridges on the floor at the same time to alleviate.
I was a big proponent for playing Cam Thomas extended minutes. Maybe he still can get out there and do it, but he just has not been good when he's gotten his opportunities as of late. And rewind real quick. Remember the All-Star break? Out of the All-Star break, how many games in a row did the Nets lose? I believe it was 4.
They lost 4. They lost 4 in a row,
yeah,
right out of the All-Star break, and we were like,
4.
They might be cooked.
Yeah, they might. And then we came back and we're like, they
like,
beat
hold
the
on,
Reds!
they're figuring it out. They're beating good teams.
So
You never
next time
know
we
with the
record,
Nets.
that could be what we're talking about.
And look, this is at this point we've been doing it for 40 minutes. This might almost be beating a dead horse at this point. But Alex, I'm going to ask you to throw up My Holy Kings comment. He says, if you lose 4 games in a row with the same starting lineup, it's Jacques Vaughn's job to change the lineup. The starting lineup those are only the players that play together for the first 6 or so minutes of the game. If you want to look at a minutes breakdown, a minutes rotation, look at things like Yuta Watanabe. He is the one, like Jacques Vaughn said, who is getting minutes for Cam Thomas. So if you want to make some sort of grand statement about who should be playing and what needs to change, you have to look at the actual stats and figures. And I don't want to make too broad of a statement, but I feel like, I don't know, programs like First Take, where every single game is the most, nuclear level reaction. Everything needs to be overanalyzed. This is every game is the make or break game of the season. It needs to be dug into for 2 hours a day at 10 a.m. We've reached the point where we have Nets fans that are simply living a game-to-game existence, and that just seems tiring to me. It seems tiring to me to be at a 10 when we win and at a 0 when we lose. This team is pretty good. They're like a 6 seed, and they'll probably stay like a 6 seed. They may be a 7 seed. They may be a 5 seed. Who knows? They're pretty good. I think you should just stay at like a 7. Just stay at a 7, because at this point, this team has shown that they are pretty much the NBA equivalent of a 7 level excitement, whether they're winning or losing, because they're only winning and losing these games because some of their open threes are falling and some of them aren't.
6 or 7. I think that's the way you stay at a 6 or 7, because that's where the Nets are going to fit.
Yeah,
Most
right.
likely. They will be 6 or they'll be 7.
That's reality. Bleacher Report just ranked the Brooklyn Nets as the 13th best team in the NBA. Fair, probably accurate.
16
Somewhere
teams
in
make
there.
the playoffs,
Somewhere in there. And going back to what Robin said, the difference between this 4-game losing streak and that 4-game losing streak out of the break, the defense was not there. They lost to the Bulls, and the Bulls scored 131 points. They lost to the Hawks. The Hawks scored 129 points. They lost to the Bucks. The Bucks scored 118 points. Bro, they lost to the Knicks, and the Knicks put up 142 points after the break on us. When you look at this losing streak right now, it's a matter of the offense not being there. Shots not falling. It's a make or miss league. They held the Cavs last night to 115, the Nuggets to 108, the Kings to 101. It's not the same type of situation. You got to look at numbers. You got to look at the box score. You got to look at what is happening and what is going on. Jacques Vaughn is doing the most that he can, but I don't know where are these other players coming from? The Long Island Nets, you want Drew Smith and David Duke Jr. to get in the lineup? Like, that's not going to change anything either. Moses Brown, Cam Thomas. And this is the last thing I'm going to say on it before we read this positive review and wrap things up. Cam Thomas is not the answer. If he was the answer, they would have already found that answer. He's been with the team for 2 years. Ben Simmons is also not the answer. He's right there. If he was ready to go, they'd be getting him ready to go to play. These guys are not going to come save the day. Be real with yourselves.
2 more sentences. I see a bunch of people saying the scouting report is out and the Nets are predictable. They're getting open threes. They're just missing them. And then Rahola88 had said, we are a first-round knockout. Nets were a first-round knockout last year. But
with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
They lost in the first round. They were swept. And now, instead of that happening and oh no, the ish is about to hit the fan, the ish already hit the fan. You're in the process of cleaning up the room after the ish hit the fan.
The ish hit the fan over the summer. Y'all don't remember the first day of the NBA free agency? They led with breaking news. Kevin Durant requests a trade out of Brooklyn. Here it goes. We're done.
Yeah.
From right there, you should have known there was a problem. So then they decided, okay, we're going to pacify Kevin Durant. We'll make some moves. We'll bring in Markieff Morris. We'll bring in Royce O'Neal and Kyrie. Hopefully Kyrie can keep everything under control. And Ben Simmons is going to be available all in for this last year. How'd that go? Here we are now at what's coming to the end of this year. And both of those guys are gone. Ben Simmons is a non-factor. All things considered, you have a playoff team in Brooklyn. If you check the standings, they are in the playoffs if the season ended today. There are 10 games left. I think they go 500, maybe a little better, like Robin suggested, 7-3, if we get lucky, if the shots fall. And then you're looking at a Nets team, all things considered, that did better than Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in their last full season as Brooklyn Nets. They're not going to be in the plan if they're there to succeed. And I think that's a fair bar to set for them. And I think that's a fair, expectation for this team, led by Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Nick Claxton.
I like that Claxton's trying to take it the full court, by the way, now. That's been another positive.
Young Clax used to be a point guard.
His game is evolving.
Young Clax,
seriously.
He's got a few offensive moves in his bag that I've seen this year that I wasn't sure he had. I'm not mad at him. Let's read this voicemail, or not voicemail. Let's read this review. Let's see. I probably should have just sent it so that everyone could read it in the chat. But 5 stars. I can't do it quick enough. If I was producing this episode, I could. 5 stars. Best Nets pod. The trio knows their stuff, can keep it engaging, and understands the importance of their fans and knows how to incorporate them into the show. Love these dudes. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn. The show's not over. That's from AC 1126. Appreciate you leaving us a review on Apple. If you're on Apple listening to the podcast, you should do the same. And I don't even look at Talking Nets followers and listeners and subscribers as our fans. We're all Nets fans. We all watch these games. We all go through the same thing. We're all going through a 4-game losing streak right now, hoping that this team can figure it out, be in the playoffs. Maybe it's the 3-6 Sixers matchup from 2018, 2019 that we had. Different cast of characters, but a local feel, because from Brooklyn to Philly is not a far trip. I'd be fine with that series. The Brooklyn Brigade would be fine with that series. They'd be traveling to Wells Fargo Center. And I'd like to see James Harden fail again. I'd like to see Embiid fail again in the playoffs. They probably won't in the first round. They'll probably beat us in the first round, but anything can happen. Injuries happen. We've seen Harden get hurt. We've seen Embiid get hurt. We're almost there, folks. Anything else you guys got before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, don't want them to get hurt. Hopefully they're out there and we beat them at full strength. That's,
someone always gets hurt. I'm never wishing injury on anybody. I never celebrate an injury, right? It's terrible when guys get hurt. If it's Edwin Diaz, if it's Kyrie Irving with Giannis coming under him. But in the NBA playoffs, that's the one consistent thing, right? Kawhi will get hurt, but when Kawhi got hurt back when he was with the Spurs, it led to someone else emerging. Then the year that Kawhi won, Clay got hurt, KD got hurt.
Well, Embiid got hurt in the playoffs last year, and he always seems to be.
That's what I'm saying. Embiid got hurt in the playoffs.
Out of shape at the playoffs.
Harden got hurt in the playoffs with us. By the time we get to the end of the season, after an 82-game season, somebody always tweaks a hamstring, an Achilles pops, a knee, something where these guys aren't available, and that changes the course of the playoffs. Kevin Love will be out. Kyrie will be like, we've seen this every single season. That's one consistent thing. Trae Young will step on the ref's foot. Like this, if you guys go back to every single NBA playoff run, a contender is affected by an injury, and Nets fans know that best. We lost 2 out of our big 3. We had Harden out there on one leg in the 1 year that we probably should have been able to win the NBA Finals. Okay, folks, that's all we got. Appreciate y'all pulling up. If you're in the YouTube chat, thank you. Hit like on your way out. And we'll be back with another episode after this weekend. We've got this next game against the Cavs, this little home-and-home series. Hopefully they can steal one. And then they go to Miami and face the Heat and the Magic. And we just want to see wins. We just want to see shots fall. We want to see this team continue to build on the identity that they have and who they are. Ben Simmons is not coming to save this team. Cam Thomas can't save this team. He'll probably get a chance to play coming up against the Rockets and the Pistons, and let's see what he does with it. But I don't know if you guys watched. I saw a stat about his last couple games. Bro was not good. I don't understand what it is. I don't know. It's this highlight culture, man. People watch all these highlight reels and highlight films, and they don't watch the actual basketball game. Watch the game in front of you, and it'll tell you when Cam's got the ball, it's not like he's that much of a game changer for us. And I'm not knocking him. I would like to see him be a net, but I think they're going to trade him. I think they're going to get him out of here because ain't shit funny. And I know he's not having a blast sitting on the sidelines, but there are bigger fish to fry. All right, folks. Appreciate y'all. Enjoy your Wednesday, and subscribe the pod. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all of that, and we'll see you again soon. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.